What is the mirroring effect? The mirroring effect is the realization that every person who enters your life reflects some aspect of yourself back to you. What you admire points to qualities already within you, waiting to be fully embodied. What deeply irritates or hurts you reveals beliefs, fears, or unhealed parts of yourself, asking to be seen with compassion and understood. Therefore, relationships become living mirrors through which consciousness comes to know itself. The other is not just some foreign object you encounter. They are another face of the universe, inviting you to remember that what appears separate is, at the deepest level, a reflection of yourself. When you start to realize this, you start to see that healing one's perspectives, negative conditioning, fears, and illusory sense of separateness becomes the natural next step. And the reflection the other self offers can be the fastest way of making changes in consciousness by seeing and balancing the areas where you are blocked, distorted, or overactivated. And no mirror reflects more intensely than the romantic relationship. You meet your soulmate believing you have found someone to complete you. And in a self-aware sense, perhaps you have, but not necessarily in the way the conditioned personality imagines. In truth, you have found someone capable of reflecting and revealing yourself. One withdraws, the other chases. One criticizes, the other crumbles into shame. One fears abandonment, the other fears intimacy. Each believes the other is causing the pain. Indeed, something far more mysterious and profound is taking place, other than blaming, projecting, and pissing each other off. You are excavating one another and shining the light of awareness there. I'm now going to reveal something about myself that shocks everyone who knows me. I used to have some traits of what is called covert narcissism. Other than a handful of people closest to me, this is the first time I've ever shared something this personal so publicly. It isn't something I'm proud of, but at this stage of my life, I'm inspired to help others come out of their own hiding places and start to heal, and that requires radical transparency and accountability. When I finally allowed myself to see it within me in its entirety years ago, it was very painful. I had no idea it was there because I didn't fit the stereotypical image of an obvious narcissist. I was never the vengeful type, overly competitive, or backstabbing. I wasn't attached to money or material possessions, and I never believed I was superior to others or felt entitlement. I didn't crave status, envy what others had, or put people down with insults or yell at them. Instead, I was known as everyone's friend, helpful, generous, empathetic, and I've always been open-hearted to others. Because of that, nobody could ever imagine this of me. It was solely the romantic relationship that brought it out. Such a deep emotional bond was the catalyst that exposed what had been hidden within me. I wrote down some examples. I could be emotionally manipulative, using emotions as a way to control, which can also be seen as being emotionally abusive. I would do this by trying to guilt trip and shame her at times. Making others feel responsible for your emotions and well-being is a classic trait of narcissism. I could sometimes be controlling, not controlling who she hung out with, but more like nitpicking at the things she would say or do, trying to get her to be more like me. You'll see parents often do this to their children as well. It stems from identifying the other as an extension of oneself and unconsciously needing them to conform to the identity one has constructed about who they are. And at an even deeper level, it often comes from insecurity. When our sense of self is not very known to us and is fragile, differences in another person can feel unsettling and even threatening. Instead of allowing them to be fully themselves, we try to reduce our own discomfort by changing them. Remember, the primary aspect of narcissism is control, and it will express itself in many various forms. I sometimes played the victim to gain something rather than taking responsibility. Victimhood is classic with narcissism. There's nothing wrong with being vulnerable or talking about what hurts you. Healthy relationships depend on that. The difference is in the intention. I used to be closed-minded and stubborn. I wasn't genuinely curious about another person's perspective because I was too attached to my own. If something challenged my beliefs, my first instinct was often to defend myself rather than to understand. Looking back, I can see that I valued being right more than truth and more than being connected, and that prevented real intimacy. I overly idolized my partner. Loving someone deeply and admiring them isn't the problem. Placing them on a pedestal is. I unconsciously expected her to fulfill an idolized image I had created in my mind. When she inevitably fell short of those expectations, as everyone does, I felt disappointed, hurt, or even rejected, instead of recognizing that my expectations were unrealistic. In fact, I once recall her saying, "You don't allow me my humanity, Cody." I would sometimes project onto her in other ways too. Remember, we don't always see reality. We see through the lens of who we are. Our shame, fears, insecurities, and unresolved wounds color our perception. We can only see through the lens of those distortions. As a result, there were times when I wasn't truly seeing her or what was actually unfolding in a situation. I was seeing only my own shame, rejection, or fears. I was also overly attached to my image and personal identity and how others saw me. Naturally, your partner becomes an aspect of your identity, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing. But is that attachment rooted in insecurity, the need to be validated, and a sense that you complete me? Or does it come from a place of inner wholeness, mutual appreciation, and the freedom to love another without needing to possess them or fearing that they will leave you? There were moments when I wasn't truly in a relationship with my partner at all. I was in a relationship with myself, with my story, my identity, and the image I had unconsciously created. Because of that, there were times when I couldn't truly see or hear her. Instead, she was expected to uphold the fantasy I had constructed of who she was, who I was, and what our relationship was supposed to look like. And because I had no deeper awareness of who I was, my identity had become entangled with another person. Therefore, when she left, it felt as though a part of me had died. What I didn't realize at the time was that I had never truly discovered who I was, independent of the stories I had told myself. My sense of self had been built upon imagination rather than reality, upon unconscious conditioning rather than authentic being. And because I wasn't grounded in what was real, I was constantly pulled to and fro by my fears, insecurities, impulses, addictions, and ego. Oh, and I mustn't forget, I could also be possessive. However, it was not in the way people might traditionally think. I did not feel threatened by her having male friends or family in her life, nor did I believe I had the right to control her freedom. My possessiveness existed on a much deeper, more spiritual level. I had internalized the Western and religious idea of what soulmate was. I believed we were bonded for all of eternity, destined to be inseparable. And because I truly believed this, the relationship gave me an incredibly powerful sense of purpose, identity, and completion. I told myself, she completes me. She is my world, my everything. And so when it came time for the relationship to end, It felt as though she took my world, my identity, and my everything with her. I was devastated and destroyed for an entire year because I couldn't grasp the fact that she was gone. It was the most intensely painful period of my life, yet paradoxically, it was also during that time that my awakenings began. Through the heartbreak and horror of losing her, I slowly started to understand the nature of attachment, the nature of the mind, and how much my suffering came not just from losing her, but from losing the identity I had built around the relationship. Over time, I began to see the relationship through a different lens. Perhaps a relationship is not always meant to last an entire lifetime with the same person. Perhaps sometimes the lessons we are unable to learn together within one relationship must be learned through the pain of separation. And then another relationship presents itself, but the catalyst remains the same. The same wounds, the same patterns, the same lessons continue to arise until we are willing to truly face them, process them, integrate them, and bring them into balance. Perhaps relationships are not ultimately meant to complete us, but to open us and reveal us. Perhaps they are mirrors designed to help us become more conscious, more honest, more compassionate, more understanding, more loving, and more self-aware. And how does the mirroring effect play out in relationships? It unfolds through the principle of polarity. As one person unconsciously moves towards one extreme, the other is often pulled toward the opposite. One demands, the other accommodates. One reaches, the other withdraws. One criticizes, the other absorbs. One overgives, the other takes. One clings, the other seeks distance. One seeks constant reassurance, the other feels smothered. One becomes the victim, the other seeks rescue. One needs to be right, the other learns to stay silent. One seeks control, the other loses their voice. One becomes controlling, the other self-abandons. These polarities are not random. They reveal complementary unconscious patterns, each inviting the other to recognize what has been disowned and hidden within the self. The relationship becomes a living mirror that illuminates what each soul is being called to work on, heal, and bring into balance. And I've played both roles. I've been in relationships where the polarity was reversed, where she expressed more of the dominant traits, and I became the more codependent one who self-abandoned, over-accommodated, and sought love through attachment and approval. Likewise, you might be the dominant polarity in most areas of your life, but find that your polarity flips when you're around your boss, mother, or father. Begin observing the world through the lens of polarity and energy. You see, we excavate and highlight that which is hidden within each other, so that our shadows can come to the light of awareness. When recognizing oneness and doing the work, the relationship slowly transforms from "how do I change her" to "what would I have to feel in this moment if I could not lash out at her in anger?" Or "what would I have to feel in this moment if I'm not allowed to blame and project?" Or "what would I discover about myself in this moment if I'm not allowed to control?" Everyone participates in this dance. The controlling husband meets the helpless, abandoned child within, still trying to feel adequate, accomplished, and secure. The people pleaser comes face to face with the abandoned and rejected child, who learned that love had to be earned. The relentless achiever finally meets the part of herself that believed her worth had to be proven. The rebellious child unknowingly reflects the authenticity that the parent abandoned long ago. Generation after generation, incarnation after incarnation, the universe patiently holds up the mirror until someone finally becomes aware enough to say, "It ends with me." Whether you identify more with the dominant patterns or their dynamic opposite, the path of healing begins in the same place: self-awareness. Retreating and reflecting after a conflict can be necessary and is very helpful indeed. But if you can start the work in the midst of conflict, this is when healing really takes hold. The moment you feel triggered, the hidden program awakens. The impulse arises to control or submit, to pursue or withdraw, to defend or appease, to blame the other or abandon yourself. These are the moments that matter. Instead of automatically acting out in the familiar pattern, pause. Breathe and focus on your breath. Find your center. Become the awareness that is witnessing the storm rather than the storm itself. Tell yourself, catalyst, or maybe say, respond, don't react, in order to help yourself focus. From that place, resist the urge to blame and project. Resist the need to prove you are right or make the other person wrong. Resist the impulse to control, manipulate, defend, explain, rescue, or disappear. Stay present with the discomfort and with the body, without immediately trying to escape it. This is where a new way of relating is born. Over time, the unconscious polarity begins to balance and even dissolve. The pursuer no longer has to chase. The withdrawer no longer has to run. The controller no longer needs to dominate. The self-abandoning person no longer needs to disappear. You begin responding instead of reacting. This is conscious relating. It is the willingness to remain present in the fire of your own emotions without making another person responsible for them. It is the courage to own your projections, speak without aggression or belittling, listen without defensiveness, and love without losing yourself. Eventually, relationships stop being a place where you seek completion and becomes the environment where consciousness comes to know itself. This is how the cycle ends, not because you found the perfect partner, but because you became conscious enough to stop unconsciously repeating the past. I must insert a note here. I actually wouldn't advise hanging in there and doing the work with someone who is on the more extreme end of the narcissistic spectrum. It could be too emotionally and physically dangerous. In that case, sometimes the healthiest and most conscious choice is to leave. It may be that your healing and theirs can only begin in each other's absence. Once you can see the mirroring effect and start conscious relating, then healing naturally starts to unfold. But there's a catch. Just when you think you can celebrate your victories, you suddenly trip and fall just before the finish line. So, from one fellow traveler to another, it's important to know that the path before you is not one of perfection, but of continual refinement. On my own journey, I have completely face-planted, lost everything, embarrassed myself time and time again, often over the very same lessons, the very same catalyst, the very same experiential puzzle. It wasn't until I began facing these catalysts head-on, not to conquer, escape, or control them, but to truly understand them, that healing began. One by one, I started integrating many of the core wounds that haunted me throughout life, Yet, just when I believed I had finally healed a particular part of myself, it would inevitably arise again, and once more I would perform an epic faceplant. But I never gave up. Every relapse on substances, every public embarrassment, every setback, every loss, every traumatic event became another invitation to see myself more clearly and to love myself more deeply. Then, little by little, and sometimes in great leaps, true healing began to take hold. You are not here to become flawless. You are here to awaken and ultimately to learn the lessons of love. Every experience, whether perceived as joyful or painful, beautiful or broken, contains within it a hidden essence waiting to be distilled. When you are willing to look honestly, feel deeply, and remain open, you begin extracting the wisdom and love concealed within each painful experience. What you call sins or mistakes, then, are not departures from the path. They are the path. Each misstep, each failure, each heartbreak becomes intimate material from which consciousness distills greater understanding. Perhaps you might envision your journey as an ever upward spiraling current of light. There will be moments when familiar patterns, emotions, and painful lessons seem to keep happening. Yet, nothing truly repeats. Each encounter comes from a little higher advantage point than before. You are no longer the person who first met that initial lesson. You now see through slightly clearer eyes, love with a more open heart, and integrate what was once divided within you. This is how the soul ascends, not by avoiding experience, but by embracing it, refining it, distilling it, and allowing it to transform you. At the heart of this process lies one of the greatest gifts of all, forgiveness. Forgiveness is not the denial of suffering, nor in any way is it the approval of harmful behaviors. It is the recognition that every being, including yourself, is learning, growing, stumbling, and reaching toward the light in one's own unique way. To forgive another is to release them from the fixed image you have held of them, which ultimately keeps you indefinitely bonded to them. To forgive the self is to release the illusion that you were ever supposed to be anything other than you were in that moment. An addict, an alcoholic, temperamental, fragile, rejected, a pain in the ass, and a failure. Nothing was outside the path. The moment you stop condemning your past, it ceases to be your punisher and becomes your teacher. Self-forgiveness dissolves the resistance that keeps old wounds alive and allows the fragmented pieces of the self to reunite. Through compassion, directed not only outward, but inward too, transformation ceases to be something you strive for and becomes something you naturally allow. As this unfolding continues, you will see the mirroring effect more and more. Every person you encounter reflects some aspect of yourself, your beliefs, your fears, your gifts, your wounds, your capacity to love. This is no accident. This is one of the ways oneness reveals itself. For the mirroring effect can only be possible if we are all one. To recognize yourself in another and another within yourself is to begin dissolving the illusion of separation. And so, spirituality is not found in achieving some ideal state, but in your willingness to engage fully with your experience, to be honest, to admit defeat, to admit that you did some shitty things, to forgive, to learn, and to love. It is found in facing yourself again and again as the spiral continues to climb upward, each revolution carrying a little more understanding, a little more compassion, a little more humility, and a little more light than the one before. Alright, this next part gets a bit more abstract, so maybe approach it as you would a philosophical scene in a movie. You don't have to believe it, just take it in and experience it. There's no dogma involved, and once you leave the theater, you can simply think, that was an interesting experience. So then, why is this mirroring effect designed this way? Where does it arrive from in the first place? To attempt to answer those questions, we must first come to grasp the idea of oneness a bit further. So as always in my videos, I will insert a seemingly preposterous idea that while there are an infinite number of minds throughout the universe, there is ultimately only one consciousness. And thus, there is only one energy expressing itself in infinite forms. There is only one underlying essence that, through the intricate interplay of polarity, comes to know itself through an unfathomable diversity of perspectives, patterns, realities, relationships, and reflections. Let's take this further. Imagine a beam of pure white light passing through a prism. To the human eye, one beam suddenly appears to become many. Red, orange, green, blue, indigo, crimson, amber, emerald, sapphire, violet, etc., etc., each possessing its own unique wavelength, hue, and beauty. They appear independent, as though each color has a separate existence. Yet the prism never created any sources of light. It simply revealed the infinite expressions already contained within the one source of light. Perhaps existence itself unfolds in the same way. The one infinite creator, or you could say universe, or source, or infinity, or consciousness, is like pure white light, infinite, undifferentiated, undivided, and containing every possibility within itself. Through the prism of creation, that one light refracts into galaxies, stars, planets, trees, oceans, animals, and ultimately, you. You are not separate from the light. You are one individualized expression of it. The spiritual journey, then, is not about becoming the light. It is about remembering that you have never been anything else. But this invites another extraordinary question. If there is only one, why create the many? How could intelligent infinity know itself if there were no perspective, no relationship, no contrast, no experience, no other selves, no reflections? Can an eye see itself without a mirror? Can silence know itself without sound? Can love know itself without giving and receiving? Could you possibly know yourself without other selves? It's not possible. Let's take this a little further still. Could a dog know itself if its world consisted only of earth, rocks, and plants? Yes, to a certain degree it certainly can. Now give the dog a family of others of its kind, offspring, roles to play, challenges, and an ever-changing environment. How much more can it perceive, experience, process, and express? Through relationship, reflection, and contrast, its world and its capacity to know itself expands immeasurably. And now, what if you gave that dog a human family? And so the universe performs the most astonishing act imaginable. It becomes the mirror. It fractures its infinite light into an immeasurable number of unique perspectives, each carrying its own complete free will, each capable of exploring existence in a way no other being ever could. Through your joys, the universe experiences joy. Through your grief, it learns grief. Through your discoveries, it discovers. Through your forgiveness, it forgives. The universe is not just an observer of life. It quite literally lives it. Then, once you start to open your mind, another realization begins to emerge. If every being originates from the same light, then every person you encounter is another refraction of yourself. Different personality, different story, different perspective, different desires, different trials and errors, but the same infinity looking back through other eyes. Suddenly, perspective entirely flips from what was once perceived as separation to unity. The stranger is no longer simply a stranger. Others are no longer foreign to you. Instead, each becomes a mirror. Some mirrors reveal your compassion, others reveal your fears, some reveal your generosity, others expose your shame, your judgments, your insecurities, and the places where love has not yet been freed from the separate self and distortion. The moment we stop denying or fighting the mirror, healing begins. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" we begin asking, "What within me wants to be understood and accepted?" This is when everything starts to change. Then one day, without warning, the entire picture turns inside out. You realize the person who hurt you was unknowingly helping you discover yourself. The person who abandoned you helped you to see where you have abandoned yourself. The person you loved was actually reminding you of the beautiful qualities within you. The person you judged were revealing places where acceptance and healing were still missing. Every friendship, coworker, romance, betrayal, loss had secretly been another aspect of the universe quietly asking, "Do you know who you are yet?" And then comes the most astonishing realization of all. The Creator was never hiding somewhere beyond the clouds or stars. It was hiding behind every pair of eyes you have ever looked into, including your own. The mirror was never there to show you someone else. It was there so that the one infinite Creator, having become the many, could slowly, lovingly, and eternally remember itself. Thus, perhaps enlightenment is not another search for something new, but the sometimes gentle or sometimes super intense collapse of everything that convinced us we were ever separate from others, separate from the universe, and separate from Source. From my own experience, I came to realize that the journey was never from here to there. It was about getting as far away from unity as seemingly possible and forgetting, to finally starting to remember. It was from fear to love, from I to we, and ultimately from we to the realization that there has only ever been one. You are what you've been looking for all along, the universe becoming aware of itself.